Two hearts, two souls, sometimes even two sets of teeth. That's what villagers whispered when a strange child was born in the old Polish countryside. A child like that wasn't natural. A child like that would not stay in its grave. They said when such a person finally died, only one soul would go to the afterlife. The other remained restless, bitter, and hungry. This is the tale of the Striga, an unholy mix of vampire, witch, and omen of death. It is one of the darkest creatures in Slavic folklore, a being feared not only for its thirst for blood, but for its terrifying familiarity. Because the Striga was not a beast from the forest or a demon from hell. It was your neighbor, your husband, your child. The Striga is best described as a vampire witch, a revenant that shares blood with other European horrors like the Albanian Shtriga or the Romanian Strigoi. Its roots reach all the way back to antiquity, to the Roman and Greek strix, a bird demon that screeched through the night, stealing the blood and flesh of infants. But in the soil of Poland, Silesia, and surrounding lands, that legend changed. It fused with local fears of restless corpses, producing something unique. Whereas the Strigoi of Romania were mostly blood drinkers, the Striga had a second, witch-like layer. It could fly as an owl, it could foretell death, it could even return to live with its family for months after burial, helping around the house before finally turning against them. This dual nature made the Striga especially terrifying. It was not only a monster but a mockery of human life itself. In life, a future Striga looked human, but villagers knew the signs. A child born with two sets of teeth. A baby that entered the world already with a full set of teeth. A terrifying omen. A wanderer with no armpit hair. A woman who fell into fits of sleepwalking. These people were whispered about, avoided, sometimes outright cursed. When they died, their nightmare began. One soul left the body, but the other stayed. The corpse would rise at night, often in the form of a great owl, circling above villages and graveyards. It hunted travelers on lonely roads, attacking with claws and teeth. The Striga feasted on blood and viscera, tearing open bellies and drinking from the heart. Others said it killed by breathing into a victim's mouth, stealing their breath. But not all stories painted the Striga as purely monstrous. Some villages believed the revenant might first return home, behaving almost like the person it had been, tending fields, carrying water, even fathering children. But eventually, the hunger won. How does a Striga come into being? The key idea is the double soul. Certain people were thought to be born with two hearts, two souls, sometimes two sets of teeth. When they died, one soul passed on, but the other clung to the body, refusing to move on. Parents tried to protect their children. In some regions, they gave babies two names at baptism, one for each soul. In others, priests were called to bless those suspected of carrying the curse. But even with precautions, disaster could strike. In times of plague or famine, when many died young, the fear of Strzygi rose sharply. If someone sickened the family, or if livestock began to die, suspicion turned quickly to those buried in the churchyard. Sometimes villagers dug up the bodies. Sometimes they swore they found them bloated with blood, proof of nocturnal feasting. The belief in Strzygi, like so many vampire tales, often comes from tragic misunderstandings of death, premature burials, decomposition, disease. But for those villagers, it was very real. The Striga belongs to the heartlands of Poland and Silesia, though its kin are scattered across Eastern Europe. Its favorite haunts were not far-off mountains or exotic caves, but the spaces closest to home. Forest paths, barns and stables, lonely crossroads, churchyards by night. By day, it returned to its grave. By night, it prowled the very places villagers walked, lived, and prayed. It was not some foreign fiend from elsewhere. It was always among them. The Striga craved blood above all, but like many vampires, it had compulsions that could be turned against it. One trick was arithmomania, the obsession with counting. People would scatter poppy seeds or small objects across the floor. The Striga, compelled to count each one, wasted the night until dawn forced it back into its grave. Others used iron, steel, or fire. A sickle across the throat of a corpse kept it pinned in its coffin. A padlock on the foot bound the spirit to the earth. And should you face one directly, folklore says a left-handed slap could drive it away. Church bells, too, their holy sound cutting through the night, could banish the creature, sometimes making it melt into tar. To end a Striga once and for all, villagers relied on grim rituals. Exhumation. The body was dug up from its grave. Repositioning. It might be turned face down so that if it tried to dig, it only burrowed deeper into the earth. Decapitation. The head was severed and placed between the feet. Staking and nailing. Long nails driven through skull, chest, or limbs pinned the body down. Burning. In the most desperate cases, the corpse was reduced to ashes, ending both souls. Sometimes holy objects were used, placing a paper with the name of Jesus under the tongue, or slipping flint into the mouth to block its breath. The rituals were not just gruesome, they were communal. Entire villages gathered for such acts. It was both a spiritual rite and a public exorcism of fear. Folklore overflows with stories of Strzygi. One tells of Hadramacha, a farmer returning home at night. His dead neighbor leapt from the shadows, clawing for his face, trying to breathe death into his mouth. Hadramacha fought desperately, even offering a sausage to distract the beast before striking with his left hand. The Striga vanished, but Hadramacha fell gravely ill afterward, proof that even survival came at a price. Another tale is of Misiek, a man who died but refused to rest. At night he stole horses, pounded on windows, and hurled straw at sleeping villagers. The chaos only ended when the priest exhumed his body, severed the head, and reburied him face down. Only then did peace return. And in Silesian, a woman told of her husband who returned after death, not as a monster, but as a helper. For months he fetched water, chopped wood, even warmed their bed. Yet such visits never end well. Priests intervened, and the revenant was laid to rest. Even kindness from the dead is an omen. These are folk tales, but archaeology has uncovered their shadow in reality. Across Poland, unusual burials have been found. Bodies with sickles across their necks, stones in their mouths, padlocks chaining their ankles. Historians call them anti-vampire burials, material evidence of fear. In 2022, in the village of Pien, the remains of a woman were unearthed with a sickle pressed to her throat and a padlock at her foot. In 2024, forensic artists reconstructed her face. She was nicknamed Zozia. Was she truly a monster, or just a woman marked as different by her community? We'll never know, but her burial shows how deeply the fear of the Striga ran. The Striga is more than a myth. It's a mirror of human fears, fear of disease, of outsiders, of death itself. Two souls, one body. One soul goes on, the other stays behind. That idea haunted generations. It explained epidemics, misfortune, even why graves seemed disturbed. So villagers scattered poppy seeds, clutched sickles, and listened for church bells in the night. Because once the Striga rose, There was no telling who it would visit next. And if you hear an owl screech outside your window at midnight, well, some still say that's the Striga calling.